Hi, my friends. It's Sally Clarkson again tonight, and I'm trying a little something different. I actually have a little microphone on. We'll see if this records more loudly because I have a soft voice and I want all of you to hear me. Thank you so much for all of your emails and letters. I'm just so blessed to have you as friends. So tonight, if I can figure out how to do this, we're going to go over chapter 2 in Dancing with My Father. And the name of the chapter is A Heart That Dances to Celebrate God's Presence. As I look back on my own life and as I look at the life of David, I see that God has called him, and in my own life, God has called me not to live to build a kingdom in this world, not to live like a normal person, not to build my stability and my houses and my dreams upon something that's going to fade away. But God searches to and fro through the whole earth to strongly support those whose heart is completely His. And so when God is looking for a person with a different heart, He's looking for someone who doesn't want to put up with the mundane or mediocre, but someone who says, I want to know, I want to worship, I want to be a part of the God who threw the stars into place and who is willing to use a normal person in a miraculous way because he's filled with the Spirit of God. I love David. I love David. Now just think about him. He was the seventh child. They didn't even think he was worthy of being anointed by Samuel. But what I think about David is that when he was out there in the fields and he was taking care of the sheep, he was watching the shooting stars and he was worshiping God and writing music about it. When he would see the rainbows or the clouds or the change of seasons or the thunder and lightning or the animals or the flowers, he was a part of what God had created that was beautiful, and his heart learned to worship when he was alone. His heart learned to walk with God. His heart learned to trust God in the dark of night. And so we see that David was the one that when 40,000 soldiers saw the giant, David said, You're not that big, Goliath. You come to me with sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts. And so a person who learns to dance with the Father, with the God of the universe, is a person who has a different kind of eyes, that instead of seeing giants says, God, this giant is something in my life for your glory, and I will face this giant by faith with you in my life. And of course, I love the story that I tell in chapter 2 because, again, it sees a heart of David. He was always looking to honor God. He heard God. I love it too because he was somebody who danced with all of his might. He was a celebrating sort. And what you need to understand is that David had been anointed by God when he was about 15 years old. But he didn't come into being in charge of both of the kingdoms of God until he was about 38 or 40. So when he went to the Levites and he went to all the Israelites, about 30,000 of them, he said, I want you to get the most wonderful orchestra together. I want you to get the choir. I want you to get the Levites. I want you to gather the people. I'm going to dress in my best. I'm going to lead the people in worship of God because God has anointed us so that we could be the ones who live for His glory. We are the people of God. And so David wasn't just doing some kind of a spontaneous little dance. He had prepared 30,000 cakes to give to the families. He'd prepared grapes and figs. This was a party. This was like a presidential inauguration. And David wanted everyone who was around him to say, God in our presence means that we are a blessed people. And so in this whole story of dancing with my Father in your life, you see, you sometimes, if you're like me, you're picturing a little life. Just give me comfort right now. Just give me ease of mind. But God is picturing that He wants to make you a champion. Picture a gold medal winner. What do they have to do? They have to give up their time. They have to be disciplined. They have to go through muscle pain and aches. But in order to be a champion, they discipline themselves for the reward. God desires a people, a person like David, who could say, God, I see you in my life. I'm your man. I will celebrate you. I will worship you. And in your presence, I will lead the people to the glory and the blessing that you have for us. I love the saying by Nietzsche that said, the people were thought to be crazy who were dancing, who were seen by the people who couldn't hear the music, or something like that. I did it better in my book. But what about you? Are you somebody who's looking for the fingerprints of God? Are you somebody that says, I don't want to be satisfied with mediocre? I want to worship you right where I am because I know that you're building God's character, Jesus' character in my life. Or are you stuck in a place where you can't see beyond? God loves you, adores you. He wants to stretch you. He wants to make you righteous. To be holy means to be set aside for God's purposes. He doesn't want you to be fearful. He doesn't want you to be a whiner. He wants you to be strong and alive and have the abundant life. So if we're going to experience the dancing, the freedom, the joy of God, we have to have the will to obey God and to say, I will worship you in this place. Show me what this moment in my life means. Show me how to worship you, to give up my rights so that I can become a person like David. The thing I want you to see as I leave this chapter is that Michal, his wife, disdained David's dancing in front of all the people and leading them as Israelites to a celebration. Her father had been the one who was the first person to replace God as king over them. And when she rejected the celebration and the worship of David, she became barren the rest of her life. When we refuse to submit our wills to God and to worship, there will be barrenness of soul. So let's be people who listen to God. Let's be people who submit to God and watch what He does to work in your life in a most wonderful way. Bye.